gotten promotions in their job. They seem to be having, as most would say, a good life. They're not doing nothing. They're not couch locked all day. Mostly, you made it seem as though anyone who starts smoking weed turns into a couch potato and does nothing with their life.
Well, that's not the impression that I intended to give. Alcohol functions the same way. There's plenty of high-functioning alcoholics.
And I mean, in terms of the issue, you point out to the outward issues that you kind of included in what we set forth as the void, including relationships and work productivity and other things. But just because you know people that use a drug such as marijuana, and they're still able to be outwardly normal people, does that mean that the internal struggles or the internal reasons why they use a drug in the first place do not exist? And I mean, with alcoholics, I mean, they're able to, like functioning alcoholics, as you say, they're able to work at their jobs and maintain their relationships for years, but that's not and that might not be the reason why they drink. There might be other underlying issues.
Well, and one last thing, just on that note, is that a favorite quote that hit me years and years and years ago by Judith Krishnamurti is that it's no measure of success to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society, right? And we don't like to think of our society as one that's sick, but when you look at where we fit on the international scale among other countries in things like education, suicide, prison, right? The number of people per capita in prison. When you look at the number of people that we kill on an annual basis through our military, there's some real sickness in our society. So they may be fitting in, right, using the marijuana, but why do they even need it if society's that great? Oh, I'm sorry. Moderator.
All right, so we'll get to everyone, but just so we can let opposition rest a little bit, even though it's out of line as the role of the moderator, I figure I'll come up with a question. So
you have one.
No. This is timing. Yeah, right. You can read it. So, Mr. Melson,
Dean White's giving me 1,000. Oh,
1,000 nugs.
Mr. Melson, you spoke primarily about relaxation and marijuana being a safe drug. And although I fully disagree with that concept, I'm curious if you believe most first-time drug users, no matter what the fate of their future, if they become a regular user or not, if you would agree that a large incentive is the curiosity and wanting to rebel, and if you would agree with that, do you think it is beneficial for us as a nation to have a safe drug on the black market?
Okay, so first off, I wish there was no black market because I wish we could just sell everything like we wanted. But my libertarian rantings aside, do I think that we should have a safe drug on the black market? I really don't see why having a safe drug on the open market isn't, an option. I do not understand why, because here's the thing, we keep talking about the black market and, oh, well, these drugs are illegal. We're thinking about cocaine and stuff like that, heroin, no. That's not what's really causing problems these days. It's prescription opioids. Prescription opioids that you can go down to the street, to your doctor, walk in, and on your health plan say, hey, I'm having, back pains or what have you. Get handed a handful of pills, and there you go, you're off to the races. Now, I don't understand why, if people are driven to that, and we recognize that that's an issue, why we can't say, okay, let's have a safe drug that's, well, a little prolific. I'm fine with that. If, okay, high schoolers at a party get caught with a little bit of pot that, they stole from their parents' stash or whatever, that's fine. That kind of crap's gonna happen. We don't live in a perfect world, but I think that we should have something safe, available at your corner store, for instance.
Any other questions?
I have a question for the affirmative.
Oh boy.
With the
finally some love.
With the legalization, the recreational legalization, do you think you would see a higher rate of those people participating in the Cheech and Chong classic stoner vibe, where they do nothing but smoke pot, watch shows, and sit around and kind of waste their life? And how would you handle that?
Yeah, go for it. here's one of the dilemmas. And look, and I understand completely, and let me be honest, right, again, I've never tried drugs. I can't speak to the struggles that people may go through. The only thing I ever was interested in was PCP, and for some reason no one can find me any. Because I can Hulk out and eat people. Here's the problem. I like the idea of an anti-state. I do, I'm a statist, but I'm also cautious. Sam just read himself. I'm cautious about the idea, why does the state get to say, this is a fulfilling life, and that's not. Now, I like states to do this, because I like states to go in and say, comrades, you're not going to church anymore. Yeah, productive labor, right? And I'm making a silly point in a sense, because yeah, drugs are going to do this, but at what point does the state get to say you're allowed to do this and you're allowed not to? And we're ranging kind of here from, where do we limit, do we back up a little bit, or should we sort of open up more? But we've already accepted that people get to be, alcoholics. We don't like it. There's options for them. So yeah, there probably would be people that would be Cheech and Chong stoner comedies, and that sucks. I don't like it. I especially don't like it because it weakens our society, it weakens our state. If the Chinese ever want to invade, wait until the Saturday morning of Greek week. Oh, Wolverines, oh God, my head. Right? I mean, you guys are going to do nothing. I don't care how many AR-15s you have. This is bad for us. The problem is, do you trust the state to make those determinations? And given our past history, I'm kind of worried about that. And I'm the statist. Go ISIS.
All right, Mr. Gazauskas.
Thank you, Mr. George. This is for the affirmation as well. Following being a statist, should we go back to the previous United States history where before 1926 and the lumber industry finally broke down Congress and got them to make marijuana illegal because it can make buildings that last 3,000 years? Bolivia? Yeah.
No, it just seems like they do.
No, they do. They really do. I hate it. Marijuana grows irresponsibly faster than
Don't
wood could
forget
possibly
sustainable
do.
biofuel.
It's great. No, it's should we go back to having where it was legalized across the counter and regulated through the current wasn't the FDA then because we didn't have FDR, but should we go back to that to a
Yes,
nice
me directly.
You're the statist.
I am the statist.
I'm with them.
I mean,
Watch
look.
people buy whatever I want.
The dilemma you have is what battles do you choose for the state to take on, and what obligations do you give to the state? Now, I take a radical position, which is I'd like us all to wear black leather uniforms on this campus and do morning calisthenics together. Not the popular view. I'm a little heavy. I need the help.
I'm with you.
But here's the dilemma. I mean, in some ways, yeah. In some ways, I agree. I'm saying the state should regulate opioids. I'm saying the state should regulate certain things. Should they regulate industry? Well, that is tricky.
Very brief, Mr.
Thank you,
Gazauskas.
sir. So the state should be able to regulate what we can do ourselves after we're all informed and good human beings about doing a safe thing. We should.
My heart says yes. My head says no.
Okay.
Stupid John Stuart Mill.
Mr. Feaster.
But there should be some limitation and regulation, right?
Yeah. Once you can go.
Because child sex slavery should be out.
Yes.
Let's see what the libertarian thinks.
Just checking.
A child is not a fully rational person.
Oh yeah, of course. Rational.
I'm not a straw man.
Mr. Feaster.
While I think we can agree that certain drugs are worse than others, and I respect your guys' right to choose to live a drug-free life, and I myself do not partake in smoking marijuana. But I guess I don't quite understand why your position, I don't know if you necessarily clarified it in your speech, why it's so important for society to pick this specific drug and weed it out. And really,
Go back to high.
but I guess I don't understand why is it so important that we choose this specific one, especially when it seems so benign. Even the effects we have that we can show that are bad are less bad than the alcohol that we already have legal in the system. Why should we not give people the individual choice to choose one way or the other?
Slippery slope argument.
That's a fallacy.
Actually, it's not. Right?
Okay, so like if,
Mr. Feaster will allow him to answer.
So where do you draw the line then? Right? So
Somewhere.
we've clearly had problems drawing the line in the past. This is the issue that's current. It's here, it's now, it's happening, and clearly the country is involved in making this decision, right? So, and ultimately, it's going to turn out, if we're looking state by state, the way that the people really want it to happen, even though the federal government has still yet to allow this to open up, right? And as a matter of fact, the current administration, clearly not libertarian, they're actually making it harder for the states to manage themselves and manage, particularly on this issue. So while the last administration opened things up and allowed more state control, that's actually the federal mandates are coming down much stronger against it. So it's going to find a resolution, but that involves pressure from all sides, right? So that people can find balance. Because it may be okay for some people and they may be perfectly content with this, but there's going to be people who aren't as well. And the purpose of government, right, the social contract that we engage in is this very thing, is to take care of people. You know, if we were talking about racism, there'd be no question, right? So there are times when federal oversight can be greatly beneficial.
Good.
I have a question for the opposition. You had spoken earlier about the effect on the mental capacity of children. And I wanted to look at what about children who use marijuana edibles for cancer treatment, for kids who can't afford chemotherapy, radiation treatments,
Right.
and they use marijuana to help with the symptoms of cancer?
Well, so what we would do is take that $3.6 billion and invest it in a better healthcare system that would take care of that problem, right? And that's just that's the drop, right? Extend that out over a few years. I mean, we could probably double the number of services we offer.
You go with you in the back.
I have a question for Mr. Coaching in the city. It seems to have been the center point of your contention that rational adults should be able to make their own choices. But first of all, I'm wondering if you can draw a bright line for when everyone is rational. Second of all, I'm wondering how you respond to your contention that marijuana, or the use of marijuana, makes it impossible to fully achieve rational capacities.
Okay, so I'm just going to warn you right now, I'm a philosophy major, and you just opened a can of worms that I really don't want to go into. I guess my thing is, okay, but what is full rationality? That's a very good question. I would say a person is fully rational if they're able to understand the consequences of their actions. And therefore, I can say that if you're in a sober state of mind and you say, okay, you know what, tonight I feel like sitting back and drinking a couple of beers, you are a fully rational person making a decision, and you are allowed to keep to that course of action. Now,
so a 14-year-old presumably would be able to understand the effects of drinking a couple of beers. Is that
Nope.
what they should be allowed to?
No. So here's the second part. So I'm a philosophy psychology major, and I can tell you right now that the brain actually doesn't fully develop at the age of 14. In fact, I would say 25. I would say no drinking, no smoking, and no renting a car at 25. So.
Right there. You.
I was just going to ask on the opposition about their claims on the marijuana affects the economy in a downward angle, even though there's hundreds of millions of tax revenue opportunities for marijuana, legalized marijuana at least.
So to understand your question, you're asking how we can justify the economic downside?
Or claims of it, like that it affects the economy at just as much as alcohol.
I don't think we made that claim.
I mean, to be more specific, we were talking about economic output, and that's on the individual level, while being under the influence of marijuana or in a normalized society of marijuana, economic output is likely to decrease, not necessarily like the economics with number signs after that.
All right, we are at 7 o'clock. It's been 20 minutes. If y'all want to stick around and talk to the participants, you're more than welcome. Thank you everyone for coming.